Ratchet & Clank for the PS2 is an incredible game that managed to do so much right out of the box that creating a sequel that topped it should have been impossible, and it was. I've played through going Commando twice to earn free weapons for up your arsenal, and
my disappointment is immeasurable, and my day is ruined.
Let's go over why. Improving on the first game, Ratchet can now strafe, which makes avoiding enemies a skill issue, and allows for combat and exploration to be two distinct modes, both of which have been improved. First we have... ship combat is in the game too. You can fly around like the first game, but it's been enhanced with 360 movement and ship upgrades, which you get by completing the missions. It's kind of backwards designed since the upgrades that make this mode fun need extreme amounts of raritanium, which you earn by completing the ship missions, meaning the first few are just unbearable. Once you have things like the electro mines and shield, they do become a bit of fun, but the process there can take hours of grinding. The game also commits a grave sin, since 3 of the game's platinum bolts are unlocked through this minigame, which leads us back to combat. Weapons now upgrade once you defeat enough enemies with them, like the gold weapons from before but now by use, with several weapon mods being available to enhance them, which you purchase with platinum bolts, acting identically to gold bolts in the first game being hidden in the levels and such. The issue in them being hidden in the ship missions is that your exploration of a level is what earns you the mods that strengthen your weapons, which in and of itself is genius, but they aren't hidden in the ship levels, they're rewards for perfect races. This kind of destroys itself, as hiding the bolts in the ship levels could have made the levels feel like real areas instead of just an obstacle field. But I guess we should talk about these now. They're the replacement for the Trespasser, and instead of a series of matching puzzles, they're reaction timing and memory minigames. While this idea isn't bad, the execution is kind of frustrating and they're usually placed within levels in a rather disruptive format that interrupts gameplay, and more so just waste your time. Like I said, combat is now electric, with stages like the arenas being some of the highlights of the series, with a cage match that sends you into the air to dodge meteors and the crystal hunt on Tabor allowing you to use a limited amount of ammo to figure out which weapons to use against the bugs, lizards, and dragons respectively. It asks you to solve the desert, just like Ratchet 1 did, and it's so clever. With the hype of combat being some of the best in the series, you sort of start to... The Hoverbike is a replacement for the hoverboard, and even if it's less cool, it does control better and the races are easier. They're meant to be where you farm bolts, which is why prices have inflated so much in this game. But considering it doesn't have much to do with your ability to run as Ratchet and that there are platinum bolts hidden in them, it takes away from that core experience I was in the middle of describing. At least the music is pretty cool, which the entire soundtrack is amazing by the way. That core experience uses the gadgets you find to platform as Ratchet in between combat and to find platinum bolts. The slingshot returns and is never used as creatively as Ultanis, but is instead mixed with sections like the grind boots and dynamo, which creates temporary platforms. These challenges are somewhat simple, but if you leave quick select pause off, it creates a really fun timing reaction challenge. There's also the Therminator, an improvement over the Hydro Displacer, which freezes and thaws water for platforming and swimming, compared to just sucking it out and putting it back in. Measuring the ticks to freeze at just the right level is fun to figure out and time, and Clank sections are back and about as boring and uninteresting as before, except they're a little bit easier and take longer. Giant Clank is back and honestly worse than before, as now missiles and bombs are a finite resource in a map. That feels clunky to cover, and you get swarmed by enemies that chip your health way too fast. On both fronts, they're really annoying. The good thing about them is during Uranus, it makes Ratchet and Clank feel like partners in a really cool way. What isn't annoying is the feeling of leveling up your Nanotech mid-battle and screen nuking all enemies, which happens to compensate for an increased scaling system with enemies due to your own weapons getting stronger. In place of the health upgrades in the first game are different armors that flatly reduce damage by a percentage, introducing a cool split in the economic challenge of the game: take less damage or deal more damage. Since the game still keeps up with the critique of capitalism with an evil corporation as the villains, the glider is a mix of the clunky inverted visibomb controls and reflexes, as you have to maintain your movement without crashing once, which usually takes a long time and interrupts the flow of a level. The levitator is a vertical thruster that runs on a timer, meaning it's just making sure you use hang time. It's more so just a waste of time than anything else. The kinds of levels it interrupts are planets like Siberius and Bolden, where you chase the boss of the level along a moving train and fight through enemies and use the swing shot to pursue her. It's a much cooler boss than any in the first game. The magnet boot sections on Bolden are fun and allow you to shoot and strafe on, making them parts where your charge boots are limited, and you have to view the level in a different perspective to find cover or close in on enemies. The entire game's combat is so innovative compared to the first. Hey, I'm glad I got interrupted this time. The grind rails are so goated in this game, making use of the swing shot and switching back and forth with weapons to shoot obstacles. Really, the biggest problem is they never get as expanded on as they had the potential to, because of all the other random minigames just haphazardly shoved into the game. And look, that's what the point of all this is to say. For every sick combat gauntlet, there's a ship mission. For every grind rail, there's a glider section. For every fun platinum bolt, there's a Clank level. It just never ends. And the biggest thing people always say is, well, it gets better on New Game Plus, and my brother in Christ, no, it doesn't. I tried New Game Plus, and you can certainly speed up ship segments, but they're still there. So are the electrolyzers and the gliders and Clank and the Hoverbike and Levitator and Giant Clank and the Infiltrator. Look, imagine a pizza with everything you like about it, but every time you take a few bites out of it, you also have to take a bite of cat food. Is that the best meal you've ever eaten because of the pizza? Or is it the worst meal you've ever eaten because of the cat food? I think it's somewhere in between. Or in other words, just mid. Because I really do think that the Ratchet gameplay in Going Commando, when it works, is the best in the trilogy. But I can't stand being slapped in the face because I want to enjoy it. If you like Going Commando, tell me why. I want to know. I'm not being sarcastic or asking for interaction. I genuinely want to know if this is something that people like, or if they can just get over the minigames, if it's something that I'm missing. If it's just something I don't get. Bye.